This is HBR News number 444. Blue Collar Men Stand Up Once Again, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Blue Collar Men Stand Up Once Again, where we discuss the news of the week. Why is this happening? The Badger treatment. There's sound coming from somewhere, and I don't know where. Blue Collar Men Stand Up Once Again. Wait, what's happening? Of the week? Why is this happening? The Badger treatment. There's sound coming from somewhere, and I don't know where. Color Men Stand Up
echoing?
Once Again. Wait, what's going on? The week? Why is
Other
sound coming from somewhere? I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from.
Is it echoing?
Once again. Wait, what's going on?
What kind of sound is it?
Why is what I'm hearing? Okay,
Other
there's sound coming from somewhere. I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from.
Is it echoing?
Once again. Wait, what's going on?
What kind of sound is it?
Why is what I'm hearing? Okay, there's sound coming from somewhere. I'm trying to figure out where it's coming
Is it echoing?
from. Why is there sound?
What kind of sound is it?
Why is there like what I'm hearing? Okay, there's sound coming from somewhere. I'm trying to figure out where it's
Is it echoing?
Why is there sound?
What kind of sound is it?
Why is there like what I'm hearing? Okay, there's sound coming from somewhere. I'm trying to figure out where it's Hold on a second.
Is it echoing?
Why is there sound?
What kind of sound is it?
Wow, this is like absolute chaos. I'm hearing okay, there's
sound
sound coming from somewhere. I'm trying to figure out where it's Hold on a second.
Is it echoing?
Why is there sound?
What kind of sound is it?
Wow, this is like absolute chaos. I'm hearing okay. Oh, I see. I had the okay, I'm sorry guys. I had the Patreon page open and for some reason the volume was playing on it. I'm sorry, that was an absolute mess. I am sorry, guys. I normally this doesn't happen. I am really sorry about that. So I had to do two of the write-ups because Andrew wasn't available, and so I shared the Patreon page to myself. But for whatever reason, Patreon plays the video when it's time to start, even though I never prompted it to play. So I'm gonna have to mute Patreon because I didn't know that it did that. I was just looking at.
Yeah, that is unusual.
It's super weird, right? Like that's a weird thing. So I am sorry. Okay. Wow. It took me a while to find it too because it was like another window like somewhere else because I wanted to go to it as a reading reference, and I didn't see that that's where the sound was coming from. Anyway.
As Eric Brunner points out, half the chat started making drug jokes immediately.
Well, anyway, so welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Sorry about that. I don't want to hear anything about technical difficulties. I'm fighting against that tooth and nail every day. Okay, so that wasn't supposed to happen. I apologize, but normally this goes really smooth. I don't even remember how my intro goes, but. Welcome to the show. My name is Brian. I'm joined by Hannah and Mike, or Dr. Randomercam, and we're going to be talking about the news of the week. This week, we're going to be talking about these recent trucker protests that are happening in the United States. Facial recognition goes wrong, and a couple of examples of truly depravitous, is that a word, depravitous? Depraved evil on the part of women. Because there isn't enough on that as a spotlight. So, and be sure to join us afterwards for the patron only show. So the patron show, this time I have a couple things that I thought could be interesting for us. I'm going to be looking at this video. It's short, but I think it's hilarious. It is a Hassan Piker. If you guys don't know who Hassan is, he is Cenk's nephew.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay.
And if you didn't know this little bit of trivia, before he became a political pundit that worked for the Young Turks doing Facebook videos, and then later was a panelist member, and then now is like a streamer on Twitch or something that talks about and promotes communism, he used to do pickup artist stuff. Did you guys know that? We have some of his old pickup artist PUA red pill, hitting on chicks stuff, and it's a bit of a peek behind the curtain at the kind of guy Hassan is. So if you want to join us for that, you can.
Technically, he's part of the manosphere, so he should be in the crosshairs of every feminist out there. But
yeah, he should, right? He should be like Department of Homeland Security should be watching his account.
But they're not. But also, the people who want to eat the rich aren't particularly interested in eating the close relative of a billionaire, as we've recently.
Yes.
And it's not like he's even got some kind of, I was going to say white guilt, but Turkish guilt that he's
I don't know.
out with his communist sensibility. He doesn't strike me as someone with much of a guilty conscience. He seems like a very self-possessed, massive wanker. Nothing makes sense, folks, other than communists are massive wankers.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a short video, so I also have this article from Fandom Pulse, which is also interesting. Basically, there was an award show. This is basically just more proof that awards, by the way, are fake and gay. Rachel Ziegler won the People's Choice Award for Best Action Star for her role in Hunger Games. I didn't even know that there was action in that movie because I didn't watch it. So so we're gonna look at that as well. So let me know if you think it's weird in the comments. But that's what we're gonna be doing in the Patreon show. Be sure to join us there by becoming a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into the Discord, where you'll be able to participate in all of the additional show content, and that will include all of our patron shows, but it also includes things like all of the community stuff. We actually got like a really nice plug from someone. I want to say it was like over the weekend that was promoting our patron show space, and it was pretty cool. Let me see if I can find the comment and read it for you guys, because I thought it was pretty neat. So I'm just looking to see if I have it. A lot of people say stuff, and we get a lot of messages, so sometimes they get a little bit buried. Let me see. You know what? I can't find it. I'm sorry. I thought it was Telemnar that said that, and I don't see it. Oh yeah, here it is. Here it is. He said feminists often insist that the different treatment in law between men and women when it comes to things like putting holes in condoms is justified based on the biological differences between the sexes. This gives you an opportunity to ask, does that mean the biological differences are in general a possible reason for different legal treatment between men and women? So things like muscle mass, hormones, and likely reproductive choices or problems can also justify different legal treatment for both sexes. Also, I invite anyone listening to join the Discord as a member. There are some very interesting people in there, and I flatter myself that I am one of them. Places to hang out, places to game, watch parties, discuss, argue politics, economics, etc. It's well worth the money, in my opinion. By the way, this is a rare example of someone paying to shill for something. I hope the hosts are appreciative of this. And we are. And we did not pay him for this. He chose to give us a super chow so that he could say that. So maybe consider joining us by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into the Discord, so you can participate in all of the cool community stuff. And if you just want to see what it's like, you can get like a sample of it by going to badgernation.online, and that will give you free access to some of the rooms. So please consider doing that as well. And if you don't want to wake up one morning and find that we have been completely erased and unpersoned from the legacy internet, then go to badgerfeed.com or honeybadgerradio.com, or you can just subscribe to our Rumble, because I don't think Rumble's going away, and I don't think they're going to get rid of us. And they appear to be growing. They've added a studio feature and lots of others, and I think more is on the way. So maybe just go to our Rumble channel and join the Rumble gang. We give special kudos to the Rumble gang because they know where their bread is buttered, and that like things are going to, like, they're going places over there on Rumble. So please consider that. We are HB Radio on Rumble. All right. With all of that chaos out of the way, I am really sorry about all that. Let's get into the stories. All right. So, after the stunning civil fraud case in which a New York City judge unilaterally ruled that Trump, the Trump Organization, and Trump's two sons were guilty of fraud and libel for hundreds of millions of dollars in damages, a certain group has had enough. Whispers of a supposed strike or boycott of truckers against New York City on behalf of Donald Trump have been making the rounds on social media. One such proponent of this strike is a man known on Twitter or X as Chicago Ray, who stated in a video, quote, "I've been on the radio talking to drivers for about the past hour, and I've talked to about 10 drivers who will stop refusing loads or will refuse loads starting on Monday. I don't know how far across the country this is or how many truckers are going to start denying loads going to New York City, but I'll tell you what, you F around and find out. We're tired of you effing leftists effing with Trump. Our bosses ain't gonna care if we deny the loads. We'll just go somewhere else, all right? You know how effing hard it is to get into New York City in one of these vehicles?" After this, the phrase boycott NYC began trending on the platform with over 13,000 posts mentioning it. Curiously, Chicago Ray has since deleted the original video. He posted a new video with the reasoning for deleting the old one, stating, quote, "I took that video down on Friday because it went viral and my grandson saw it on TikTok. No one's got to me. I heard what drivers were saying and I'm hearing some of that today. I ain't scared of shit. I grew up in Chicago. I stand with Trump 100%, truckers for Trump. Drivers can make their own decisions based on their families and their careers. I worked for a place for 18 years and I quit them in one day and had this job before I got to my car. I ain't the leader of any movement. I'm my own man, period. God bless America, God bless Trump, and God bless every truck driver in this country," end quote. Chicago Ray has since posted another video stating that he hears through speaking with other truckers, "I'm in Wisconsin and I'm hearing guys refusing loads. This could take longer than a week. My advice for New Yorkers is start stocking up. There's millions of truckers. For Trump, millions of us. Leave Trump the F alone. Hashtag truckers for Trump. I stand with Trump." It's currently unclear the size and scope of this informal boycott or if any impact at all will be felt. And just as a follow-up to Styx Hexenhammer, not that he's like the guy, you know, on this, but he does tend to like have some decent insights. He said that at first he didn't think it was going to go anywhere, but then this morning he put out a video saying that he thinks it is legitimately having an impact. And when you consider, and this is why I chose this story, like whatever you think about Trump is irrelevant. We're talking about essentially blue collar men, truck drivers that are essentially like the bread and butter of it's the same thing in Canada, right? There was a trucker protest in Canada and there was actually a convoy heading to the border, but this is separate. This is about they're really upset about how they feel that Trump is being treated by the legal system, and there is plenty of evidence to suggest that it is all like, you know, BS, and they are responding to it. And I think that what I chose this because we're looking at the men that really matter, the men that keep are the supply chain going, and they have a grievance, and this is how they act on it. And the people who, you know, the people that are essentially like opposing them or doing this to them are these kind of metro elite, you know, people that essentially depend on their supply, and they're taking that away from them, or at least, you know, proposing to do so. So I think that I hope that this is something that will be felt, because people, just like in Canada, you have to know that like without the guys that bring you things, you know, like the truck drivers, you're screwed. So that's why I picked the story.
Yeah, just to catch up on the backstory for anyone who's been living under a very large rock over the last week or so. I hate to say I told you so, and I really do. It's saying I told you so is not one of the few pleasures I have left in life. It's just me staring into the abyss and the abyss staring back. Last time Trump got slapped with an 8th Amendment violating excessive fine, I went on something of an impassioned rant warning y'all that the trend of things getting worse and worse is very probably going to continue. And lo and behold, that last fine has been dwarfed by this one on even more spurious grounds. And you only have to draw a simple graph to predict that the next one after that is going to dwarf this one. E. Jean Carroll was in no way harmed by Trump's self-defending statements, but at least she was a proposed plaintiff. At least she actually legally claimed to be an injured party. This time there was no claimant to such an end other than, the uniparty itself, as they fraudulently pretended that Mar-a-Lago is only worth $18 million. This was about a bank loan to which all parties agreed and were satisfied. Trump consented, the bank from whom he took out the loan consented, but isn't there someone you forgot to ask? And now Trump owes almost $500 million to. I mean, it's the uniparty, isn't it? That's where it's going to end up going.
Yeah.
And you might say, well, they'll never see a penny of it because there's a process they have to go through. But you're just assuming they won't simply steal it right out of his bank account. You think they won't do it? Why not? Because it's illegal. Ha! They are the law. Like I said, there is no rule of law anymore. There's just the uniparty. That's what happened to Dankula after his encounter with the kangaroos. The government just helped themselves to 800 quid from his bank account before his appeal could even get off the ground, even though it never did get off the ground. And I know it's a much smaller amount and a much smaller fish, and it's a completely different country, but it goes to show you that there is a possible mechanism for a government to do that. Just literally steal your money without even having to go through the middleman of the tax racket.
They do it to strange dads all the time.
Yeah, who's going to stop them? Well, I suppose the truckers can try. Like Brian said, if there's anyone who can do it, it's going to be the essential pillars of the infrastructure. It's the farmers who grow the food and the truckers who transport it. The Canadians showed us how it's done, but because they were the first to break the cycle, they were made examples of, and they too were met with an illegal crackdown of their bank accounts via the enaction of an emergency protocol that's supposed to be reserved for times of some kind of war or perhaps invasion, if you can even imagine such a thing happening. And for some reason, it took 2 years before someone in the Canadian government put their hand up and went, hey, Trudeau, you broke the law harder than anyone in Canada has ever broken the law. Maybe you shouldn't have done that. And still no consequences. The guy is still in power. He should have been hanged in the town square by now and ceremonially cannibalized, but he's still running the fucking show. Why? I'll tell you why. Because of the fucking white pillars. Because of these fatuous, deluded cucks who keep chanting, we're winning! Everything's going our way, boys! Everything's great! All they are is a barrier. A human shield standing between these evil bastards in charge and the dispossessed people who should have long since stood up to them. And I'm delighted to see that some American truckers are finally breaking the spell and going, no, you stupid cunts, we're not winning. And we never will be winning until we do something about it. So yeah, God bless the truckers. God bless the farmers, the ones who finally got black-pilled enough to realize they're getting fucked over. Not just fucked over by the powers that be, but by the useful idiot white pillars enabling this descent into tyranny. Don't listen to them, brothers. Don't listen to their cucked cries of false hope and false faith. You're experiencing anxiety and paranoia and despair right now. And that's good. That's what you should be feeling. You have every reason and every right to feel these things to the point where you act upon it. So come with me, brothers. Come with me to the dark side and stay here for as long as it takes. It will be longer than you think it's going to take. Guess what? It might well be forever. We're a highly strung species by our nature. We are not dodos. We're not blue-footed boobies. We're not fat, flightless birds with room temperature IQs that evolved on an unpredated remote island somewhere. Those dumb fuckers go extinct for a reason. We are human beings. We evolved to feel fear and panic and pessimism, because it's how we survive in a world of these ruthless carnivorous predators. That's how you win. Not by getting tired of winning, but by getting tired of losing, and by getting tired of massive wankers who constantly tell you you're winning no matter how much you're losing. Good luck, Godspeed, and don't let the bastards grind you down.
This is kind of the way things always play out, too. It's the the elite fuck things up, and the elite go after each other, and they go after anybody that stands in between them and the common man, like a immune system going after a virus, right? And then it's the worker, the common guy, that has to stand up and say, nope, we're not dealing with that anymore. We're not taking that anymore. And as far as people thinking that this will have no effect, and there have been people I've seen people saying, well, it's just a bunch of truckers. What are they going to do? Did you learn nothing from COVID?
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's like 20% of like the the truckers or something, but that's a lot.
Here's the thing.
That's a lot.
Supply is the blood of the economy. You cannot have an economy without supply, because you cannot meet demand. And even if you do not have a fully capitalistic economy, you still cannot have an economy without supply to meet the existing demand. And that is not just the consumer. People are thinking of this in terms of, oh, people won't be able to get their groceries. People won't be able to buy stuff from Amazon. No. Like I said, my husband is doing an entirely different job now than he was doing before COVID, because the place that he worked before couldn't get their supply. He worked in plastics manufacturing, and there were two reasons why the factory he worked at couldn't get their supply. One of them initially was difficulty getting delivery, and then the second reason was there were suppliers that actually had big fires in China, and the next thing you know, there is no supply to ship. And between those two things, that factory is closed forever. Like, it's not coming back. There isn't a chance that the owners will reopen and start. Like, I don't think they even still own the building. And that is what happens when your supply gets cut. When you can't get your supplies for your businesses. So it won't just be, oh, people won't be able to get their groceries. People won't be able to run their businesses. So if you live in New York, you don't just start stocking up. Like, start stocking up, but don't just start stocking up. Start putting pressure on your local politicians to do something about this, to put a stop to the vexatious litigation that Trump is being subjected to, or you're going to see the same closures and the same business deaths that you saw during COVID. That's my prediction. You guys have had part of your blood supply, your economic blood supply, cut off. So what they were trying to do to Trump with this vexatious litigation, and that is what it is, although it's not so hard to file a case for vexatious litigation against a civilian, a citizen who does it. But when it's a prosecutor doing it, there's some barriers there. It's a little more difficult, and you have to get a judge to agree with you that what's being done constitutes vexatious litigation and not legitimate prosecution. So if you've got a biased judge in the area that's going along with prosecutor, then it becomes a difficult case to even deal with. But at the same time, pressuring your politicians, pressuring your local infrastructure, then that's a different story. You get them to understand that you're going to hold them responsible for the damage to your local economy, and you're going to hold them responsible for the attacks on essentially this is happening because these blue collar men see the attack on Trump as an attack on the blue collar.
It is.
Everybody's like, but he's a rich man, but he's a rich man.
Well, some people have figured out that that he is not. They're not attacking him for who he is. They're attacking him for because he is the obstacle. He is in the way.
He's also a man whose family came up through blue collar work.
Yeah, it's also symbolic.
He's always been a part of the blue collar, I guess you could say, community, because he's always been in construction. He's always been in real estate. He's always been the guy that's out there getting things organized so that blue collar men can do their jobs, earn their living, and take care of their families, and be proud of having created things that are going to last for years and years and years. Right? So he is to these guys, he's a one of us type people. Right?
Yeah.
He's not viewed as some out there career politician. Like Hillary Clinton never did anything but politics and the law. The people locally that are doing this probably don't have any historical work outside of politics. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you are looking at this in terms of, well, it's going to have a profound effect or it's going to have zero effect, you're not looking at it correctly. It's going to hurt, and it's going to create a reason why people should be, going to their local authorities and saying, hey, this is going to affect people outside of this case. If you guys aren't achieving anything that's worth it, and you're just attacking this guy because he's on the other side of the political fence, well, we're gonna vote you out. You're gonna lose your jobs. We're actually gonna get involved. We're gonna go to the polls this year. So
yep.
That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, well, and another reason why I chose this is again, people take for granted, especially if you live in a big city and you're used to all of the conveniences, you forget like how much a few men that decide that they're not going to do their job anymore is going to affect your life. And this is the thing that we all, well, not we, because this is what we do here, but people, they're too separated from their supply chain. We take men for granted every day. And once some men quit, and it's not a lot of men that have to do it to make a significant impact, all of a sudden people are like, holy shit, I can't, that like everything I have is going to go down the drain. Allison's messaging me. She's probably complaining about oh no. Okay. No. But this is a bad time to talk to me, Allison. I'm doing a show right now. Okay. But yeah, I mean, if you want to, feel the sting of what would it be like if there were no men, this is not even like a taste of that. And this is how you find out. So it's not really just about Trump. It's about like essentially shitting on, blue collar working class men. And they eventually say, you know what? I'm not putting up with this shit anymore. You're not going to have my support now. And watch how people panic and scramble. In fact, to be fair, a lot of people are revolting in New York City itself. They're angry about, all kinds of stuff, the migrants there and all these other problems, all created by these, again, these same people. And honestly, I don't think they're going after Trump because he's on the other side of a political aisle, because it's the uniparty. I think that he is the outsider and they hate him. Like if it was another Republican, they probably just
is the uniparty versus the people now.
Yeah, the basically like the uniparty versus everybody else. Right. That's not in the party. So yeah, this is good because it does put, like I said, it puts a face to the people that you are shitting on and how that affects you. So I hope that the truckers have an impact and I look forward to seeing it. We'll see if, they debank them or something. So I got a super chow from Meredith G. Thank you, Meredith. She gives us $5. It says, HBR News 444. The cost of lawfare seems to be greater than the Uniparty realizes. Other business owners are talking about leaving the New York state. This is why the governor had to make calming statements. There are concerns about a flight from New York tanking real estate values. It's a cluster, yes. And it's happening in all the major cities. It's happening in the major cities. LA has lost people, San Francisco, Seattle, they're closing businesses left and right, Chicago. I mean, I feel like really upset about Chicago because that's where I grew up, but it is what it is. I mean, if sometimes you just got to feel the pain before people start saying, you know what, we fucked up, let's change it. So anyway, thank you, Meredith, for the super chow. And let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. What was that?
People aren't just leaving New York City, by the way. They're leaving New York State.
Yeah.
They are leaving the entire state, and a lot of them are going to Florida and Texas. So it's good and bad, because you have to worry that they're bringing their blue collar politics with them, or their blue state politics with them, and they don't understand.
Sometimes, yeah, some of them for sure. Yeah.
Right. And they don't understand the importance of a lot of what's going on right now is blue collar versus the elite. But yeah, and God help them if they really piss off the Teamsters. I will just say that.
Yeah.
They've got truckers mad. If they get the trucker union mad, they're fucked.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like I said, people fleeing the state to go live in other places. It'll be good if it is people who have figured out, who have learned that, you have to value everybody and you can't just go with your elitist communist politics, right? But yeah, it is definitely going to hurt the state. Just hope it doesn't hurt Florida and Texas too.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you guys think about this. Do you know a trucker, or are you a trucker? Have you heard about this? I watched a couple of videos on Twitter. It wasn't really big the first time I saw it, but it's blown up, so it's gotten a lot bigger, and I want it to continue to grow and expand, because they're the truck drivers and blue collar people, they tend to vote reasonably libertarian, right wing, or whatever you want to call it. And I think that's one of the reasons they're pissed about this, because this doesn't serve them. This doesn't this behavior doesn't serve them, and it's really unfair. And of course, again, they see it as a symbolic attack on the straight white man, and this is a paradigm they created, so this is what you're gonna get. Anyway, let us know what you guys think about that in the comments. We're going to move on to the next story. So, in January of 2022, two men entered a Houston sunglass hut and demanded money while threatening the store staff at gunpoint. While the two men escaped with both cash and the store's products, they were captured on surveillance footage, albeit surveillance footage of low quality. The parent company of Sunglass Hut, Essilor Luxottica, reached out to another local store, Macy's, for help. Macy's agreed to let Essilor Luxottica use their facial recognition tools in the low-quality surveillance footage. It is currently unknown why Essilor Luxottica reached out to Macy's and why Macy's agreed to help them. Macy's facial recognition software named Harvey Murphy Jr., age 61, as the culprit of not only this robbery, but of several other robberies affecting both companies in the past. Essilor Luxottica then brought their findings to Houston police and also supplied a staffer who witnessed the robbery and was able to pick Murphy out of a lineup. There was only one problem with this case. At the time of the robbery in Houston, Texas, Harvey Murphy Jr. was sitting in a jail cell in Sacramento, California, on unrelated charges. Months pass, and eventually Murphy returns to his home state of Texas. While attempting to renew his driver's license at the Department of Motor Vehicles, Murphy was arrested on the spot for his outstanding warrants. Despite his pleas and his airtight alibi, Murphy was held for nearly 2 weeks in jail, and due to the severity of the crime he was accused of, he was placed with criminals whose crimes were of a violent nature. Before being released, Murphy was assaulted by 3 other inmates who held him at knife point and gang raped him. While Murphy was eventually released after prosecutors relented, the damage had already been done. Daniel Dutko, Murphy's lawyer, stated, quote, "Not a day goes by that he doesn't think about it. When he was raped by these men, they held a shiv up to his neck," end quote. Murphy is currently seeking $10 million from Macy's and Sunglass Hut for wrongful arrest and false imprisonment. Dutko explains, quote, "After reviewing the documents, it appears to us that the police were trying to do their job. They were misled by Sunglass Hut and Macy's, and the reason why Murphy was jailed is because of the actions of these companies. We may find information that causes us to add them later, but right now we feel like we have properly named the true bad actors. We're trying to figure out exactly what the rules are because they're not telling us anything. They go to the police and say, quote, "We've got your guy 100%, but they did not. But did they have it 100%, or was it 9 markers out of 10? We just don't know," end quote. Both companies, EssilorLuxottica and Macy's, have not commented on the situation.
It wasn't even 9 marks out of 10. It was they gave it to an AI with I mean, you know what security footage looks like. It's a blur, and somehow it honed in on some guy's face. And this is why you always have to think twice before you react with visceral glee at the idea of capital punishment, particularly when it's at the hands of the state, as it works with corporations and so. There was a story recently about how the Kazakhstan government is proposing a law whereby they surgically remove the genitals of convicted pedophiles.
Yikes.
Yeah, and predictably, most of the comments were along the lines of, "Great, awesome, yeah, that's exactly what should happen. We should do that everywhere. There's absolutely no downside to this. Yes, let's absolutely give the government the right to do this. It's not as though anyone ever gets wrongfully convicted or anything." Now, leaving aside the fact that this would only apply to men, they're clearly not going to punish female pedophiles by amputating the interior clitoral shaft and both ovaries, which would be the equivalent. It probably hasn't even occurred to them that women can even be pedophiles. Like so many such proposed laws, it does nothing to punish or even deter women who are guilty of a crime, but it's a great way to torture and mutilate men who are not guilty of it. And I'm not just talking about accidentally. I mean, if you criticize the government and its corrupt practices, they can simply plant whatever evidence they need or just proclaim to have found whatever evidence they need. And Bob's your uncle, they can do whatever they like. They'll cut your balls off and burn them on a satanic altar. And they'll do it with the blessing of the general public, because so much of the general public has a knee-jerk, thought-terminating reaction to the very idea of such a criminal, to the point where they'll spontaneously trust the state and the media to be suddenly and uncharacteristically telling the truth. Well, Julian Assange totally did rape that woman. There's no way anyone would lie about that. There's no way any all-powerful government would frame someone for a crime. So, yeah, string that motherfucker up. And if anyone doesn't like it, string them up and all. What are you, a rape apologist? A pedophile defender?
Create amazing videos.
And this story in question is just the next step in that descent into madness. And it ought to be an eye-opener. You can just go, "Computer, tell us who to convict." And then a janky robot that can't figure out what is and is not a traffic light somehow turns a blurry black and white chupacabra face into a 4K rendering of one specific man, and apparently that's good enough. There's no way that kind of technology could be prompted to tell some shady cunt whatever they want to hear. It's not even limited to the novelty of AI. In Britain, a load of postmasters were convicted of some kind of white collar crimes 30 odd years ago, which only recently turned out to be a computer error That's how long it took the government to admit that it was all a mistake. It was far too little, far too late. And MP Andrew Bridgen brought this up to the Prime Minister recently in relation to, well, let's just say there's no telling how long it will take to convict people who actually committed the most heinous crimes in all history, which we can't talk about on YouTube, of course, but that detail in itself ought to indicate what I'm talking about. So yeah, in summary, I'm not being a Luddite. I'm not saying technology is the enemy. Technology is an increasingly unpredictable liability, but only when it's put in the wrong hands. And the wrong hands are governments and vexatiously litigious prosecutors and the smear merchants of the legacy media. Liars will always look for ways to facilitate their lies, as capriciously as those lies might manifest. The cautionary tale of Harvey Murphy here is just the thin end of the wedge. Well, it's the middle of the wedge, really. And if you don't want to encounter the fat end of the wedge, then stop giving the state so much goddamn power. Afuera.
There's a little seed in the middle of this big fruit, right? Despite his airtight alibi. So in 2007, when my husband was finishing up he has a degree in massage therapy, but he's not working in it. He has carpal tunnel syndrome, so you can't do that. But in any case, you end that by taking a medical board exam. In the week before he was supposed to take that exam, our vehicle was stolen, our van. And while it was out of our possession, a crime was committed using it. And so in the middle of the night one night, like they waited until about 1:30 in the morning. I had come home from work and was winding down to go to bed. And the cops banged on our door like cops. And it was the City of Dayton Police Department. So they had to bring the police department for our municipality with them. So I look outside and there are 4 men that I can't see. I had taken a hot bath and it steamed up the whole apartment and I couldn't see anything but their faces. So I didn't have any idea who was banging on my door in the middle of the night. Didn't have any reason to think it would be the cops, right? So then the cop from our municipality says to the other cop, "You have to tell her who you are." And that was the attitude they came in with. They weren't going to tell me who they were. They were just going to bang on the door. They tried to open the screen door. It's a good thing it was locked. They had tried to open the screen door and come in when I opened the interior door to look and see who was out there. And the whole time they were belligerent with us. And they accused my husband of this robbery. The robbery was of a grocery store, department store called Meijer. And I don't know if they're all over the country or just in this area, but it's like robbing a slightly less low rent Walmart. Pretty close. They're a little more expensive. Have sometimes a slightly nicer level of electronics and things, but not very high up in comparison, not very far, right? So we were dealing with this and we're having this conversation and they tell us what they're there for about half an hour after they arrive, and dragged him out of bed and started yelling at us and everything. And we're like, that vehicle was stolen. We had gotten it back that day. So we had to explain the vehicle was stolen. It had been out of our possession during the time of the crime. And it couldn't have been either one of us who did this. Well, we have you on camera. We have you on camera, so you better not be lying to us, And we want you to come in tomorrow morning and talk to us more about this. They didn't arrest him that night. So the next morning that they wanted him to come in was the day he was supposed to go take his medical boards. And I was like, I'll go get the report, and then I'll take the report to them before I go to work. And you go take your medical boards, and we'll have this straightened out. And at the time, I thought it was a really insignificant choice, right? The wife of the vexatious litigation case, the wife of the 7 years in hell guy, had said to me, "Don't you let him go near that police station." And I took it seriously, but not that seriously. But I get in there, and they were very upset that he hadn't shown up, and they actually had been prepared to arrest him. I hand over the police report from the theft of the vehicle, and I'm like, this does prove that the vehicle was not in our possession during the time of the crime. It was like, there's no way that this was him, and there's no way that this was anyone from our household. And I ended up having a conversation with the detective. And he's like, well, why didn't he come in here? Why didn't he come in here? And I was like, well, he's on his way to take his medical boards. And the guy's like, medical boards? And then he looks at his cops and he's like, you guys didn't find that out before you went to his place? So they would have put him in jail. He would have missed his medical boards. It would have been another 6 months before he could take them. And at that time, we thought that would have screwed up his entire career path. And for a lot of people, it would. They aren't geared toward getting to the bottom of the case most of the time. They don't care about the truth. They are under pressure to make arrests. And they are under pressure to prosecute. And you having an airtight alibi, not being the one in possession of the vehicle, not being free to have gone and committed the crime, being in the possession of the state at the time of the crime, provably in the possession of the state at the time of the crime, is not enough to get you out of being arrested and put in jail and held there until you are able to prove your innocence. Like, that's not the way the justice system is supposed to work, but it is the way it works. And the real problem with the AI thing, in my opinion, is it adds a layer in between the person who should be held accountable for filing a false complaint or lying to the police or giving a misinformed statement that they are 100% sure themselves is correct. And the individual who experienced the consequences of that mistake or that malice. They can turn around and say, well, the AI made a mistake. No, you made a mistake.
Yeah.
You used AI badly and wrongly, and you accused the wrong person. And in our situation, like, as soon as the information came out that, oh gosh, that van was in someone else's possession at the time of the crime, and that's probably who committed the crime, Dayton didn't pursue our household anymore. Dayton didn't pursue my husband anymore because they wanted to get the person who was doing this. And it was a bigger crime than it looked like originally too, because the individual stole, I was originally told a VCR, and it was like a $250 VCR. Well, even in 2007, $250 for a VCR was unbelievable cost-wise. And I'm like, what the hell does it do? Make you a beer and a sandwich while you watch the movie? The detective finally said, well, no, it records as well as it burns DVDs as well as playing, and like, it burns DVDs, so it's a VCR DVD player, DVD burner. So what they were really hunting was a movie pirate, basically, from back in the day. But it just blew my mind that it was that hard to prove. I had to go in and get that report and then go to the police station. And I knew that once I got there that if my husband had taken that report there, it wouldn't have mattered. They still would have arrested him. We would have had to fight for them to accept as an alibi his alibi. And so that's quite common. And in this situation, I'm not buying the line that the police department was innocent. Because if this guy went in there and said, that happened while I was in jail, that should be something that they should be able to get into their computer system and find out in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And in 5 minutes, it should have been solved. In 5 minutes, they should have been able to say, oh gosh, this guy was in jail when the crime was committed. We're not going to arrest him. And they didn't do that. So that,
Mike, you reminded me of something. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's just it. That's something they should be held accountable for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see how the suit goes. Mike, when you brought up Julian Assange, I was reminded of something else that I wanted to mention as a story, like something I learned about. So this video, I'm going to share it with you guys now. I'm not going to play it, but I'm just showing it to you. You might have seen this one going around because it did go viral.
Yeah.
The black Harvard professor that essentially blew away the myth. I mean, something we already knew. I already talked about it on the show in the past.
Statistics, the thing.
Yeah. Like the statistics around, since we are talking about police as well, but whether or not like blacks are targeted. And he found, essentially, he does this thing where he did all the research, exposed it in 2016. This isn't, I mean, this talk is more recent. But the original study he did was in 2016. I think this was after Trayvon Martin. And that's kind of what the impetus for this was. And he had to do the study. So something you don't know about this that I thought was really interesting. In this video, in this viral video, he talks about how he was approached by essentially people in the college, people that were his peers, I suppose. And they were saying, dude, you can't put this study out. They didn't like the results. They pressured him not to release the study. Okay. And unless he changes the outcome, which basically is, the opposite of what he was trying to do. He was one of these uppity black guys that wanted to actually do science. But here's the thing that some people may not know. Was in order to kill his career, he was let's see. I'm going to see if I can explain this. He was he lost his lab and was suspended without pay for 2 years. And the means is they were doing this to hurt him because he was doing bad science that they didn't like. And how they did it was they accused him of sexual harassment. And do you know, and supposedly by several women. So in order to destroy this man so that he wouldn't be able to do his job and to prevent him from being able to do his job, even though he had like a very young daughter that he had just brought into the world, right? So he had to be under police protection, ironically, because he put out a study that said, that they didn't like, that said that cops are actually less, they're not targeting young black men on purpose. He had to be under police protection because he debunked that. And he had like a little girl on the way. And so they had to do something about it. So they suspended him for 2 years without pay because he got sexual assault allegations from several women or sexual harassment. And the person behind all of that, Claudine Gay.
Of course.
Do you guys know who Claudine Gay is?
Yes.
Well, Claudine Gay was the dean at Harvard that was in trouble for, I guess something about Israel Palestine. Like she was very recent in the news. Claudine Gay. You guys don't know Claudine Gay?
Yes, everyone knows who Claudine Gay is.
Oh, okay. I'm just making sure. She is the one that did this. Claudine Gay, in a letter to the economics department on Wednesday, this is an old article from 2019. Claudine Claudine Gay, Harvard dean, said Mr. Fryer, that's the name of this gentleman here, would be put on administrative leave for 2 years, during which he cannot teach or conduct research using any university resources. The Education Innovation Laboratory, the off-campus space known as Ed Labs, where he conducted most of his work, will be permanently closed. A Harvard spokeswoman said that he would not be paid during the suspension. So, I just wanted to show there was a man who worked in a college that was trying to do honest, like, sociology, of which I am generally skeptical of to begin with. His results were not liked, and so what he decided to do was what? What they decided to do was accuse him of sexual harassment and suspend him for his trouble.
And when Claudine Gay was found guilty of
being an anti-Semite or something?
Well, that and plagiarism. They had to do her on plagiarism.
Well, yeah, right. That's right. She was also I think that's actually what she had to step down for.
And all of these CRT scholars came out and said this is only happening because she's black. And meanwhile, they've all completely forgotten about this guy.
Yeah.
And no one said he's only being put down because he's black. No, he was only being hounded out of his profession because he's male. And because it's perfectly possible to do that to any male of any color, just by pointing the feminist stink finger, the misandric stink finger, the you're a danger to women, and it works. It works every time. It worked 50 years ago. It worked 5 years ago. It still works today, because more people fall for it than don't fall for it. Because that's where our society is. Like all of the racial shit, all of the gay shit, all of the immigrant shit, it's all layered on top of the misandric shit.
Yes, it is. That's right. Based. Okay, so I just wanted to throw that in there, but let's look at the super challenge that I got, and then we'll move on to the next story. Richard, most people know about, like, they saw the viral video and they know about the Claudine Gay thing, but they don't know about how this guy was silenced by making allegations, because allegations work and they don't have to be true. I mean, in fact, it's probably the case that a lot of them are not, because they do have an effect. But I mean, just game harder, bro. Just maintain frame and you'll be all right, right? Anyway, Richard BR gives us $5. Thank you, Richard. And says, sounds like how the enhanced video in Kenosha made Kyle look guilty. This is referring to the actual story that we did. Thank you, Richard. And then he gives another $5 and says the postmaster were paying shortfalls out of their own pocket and were criminally charged. From what I've heard, the enhanced security picture was not super distinguishable, and the clerk was prompted to identify the person. The enhanced picture may have been difficult to distinguish from Elvis, for that matter. Hannah, he doesn't have a degree in misogyny. There's like a weird.
You need a degree for that. You can be an expert with no degree whatsoever. Ask any feminist.
Thank you for that. Thanks, guys, for your super chats. Let us know what you guys think about this story in the comments. We're gonna move on to the next one. So let me see here. All right, these last two are basically just women being evil, so brace yourself. Carla Rose Heath, 48, pleaded guilty to exploiting a teenage boy for sex work in order to fund her drug habit between 2000 and 2001. Despite her suspended sentence, the court recognized the long-lasting damage inflicted upon the victim, who continues to suffer from post-traumatic stress and substance abuse. The case serves as a stark reminder of the devastating impact of drug addiction and exploitation. Heath, then 25 years old, pleaded guilty to supplying dangerous drugs to a child and engaging a child in prostitution. The court heard chilling details of how she exploited the vulnerable 14 to 15-year-old victim, providing him with drugs on her apartment balcony before taking him to a hotel for sexual encounters with older men. The depth of Heath's manipulation became evident when it was revealed that she even lied to the victim's mother about their activities, further tightening her grip on the young boy's life. Beware groomers, people. They can look like women. They can even be women. The court recognized the gravity of her actions, acknowledging the long-lasting damage inflicted upon the victim. As Heath comes to terms with the consequences of her actions, her case serves as a stark reminder of the devastating impact of drug addiction and exploitation. It is a sobering tale of broken trust and shattered innocence, highlighting the importance of safeguarding our society's most vulnerable members. The court's decision underscores the need for accountability and rehabilitation in the face of such heinous crimes. While Heath's suspended sentence may spark debate, I don't know what over, it ultimately reflects the complex interplay of justice, remorse, and the potential for redemption.
I just want to point out that the story says that she lied to the victim's mother, not parents, right? If something like that happened to a boy and he went home and told his father about it, there would be more questions, right? Now, it's not all mothers necessarily that wouldn't also ask questions, because if if one of my kids came home and said something to me about this is happening when I go to this woman's house, you can bet there would be hell to pay. But this is a mother who either her son couldn't talk to her and tell her about this, or she didn't believe him. Right? Well, for all that women kick and scream about believe victims when they're talking about accusers, this woman didn't believe her own child, or wasn't approachable enough for her own child to say, people are hurting me. This is what happens when you take dads out of the home. Was she too busy? Was she too afraid of taking time off because she couldn't use this woman as a babysitter? Did she just not care because her son's a boy? Did she just not listen to him? Did she assume he was making up stories because he's a kid and an adult lied to her? There's a million questions you can ask about why this woman didn't find out what was happening until after her son was victimized so badly that he has PTSD. And I honestly, if a man had been the pimp in this instance, we probably would have been hearing, wood chipper. We'd have been hearing all kinds of reasons why his drug habit was no excuse and so on. And people might be surprised to find out that cases like this, where the human trafficker is a woman, are a lot more common than they think. And that's from UNICEF research looking into human trafficking all over the world. They have found that women engaged in human trafficking for the same reasons that men do it are far more common than people think. They're a much higher percentage of human traffickers than you hear from the feminist-run establishment. So this story is sad, and it's heartbreaking, and it's angering, but it's not surprising at all.
Why don't we just make drugs illegal? Hey, surely that'll solve all these problems. They were already illegal at the time. Oh man, that's crazy. Seems like criminalizing things doesn't stop criminals from using them. Maybe drugs don't kill people, people do. I only wish gun rights advocates and drug rights advocates could come together on some kind of compromise and stop being such fucking hypocrites. And yeah, no, it's probably not a good idea to have both, certainly not at the same time for any given individual. But in both cases, the solution starts with some kind of education, not just outright banning such things, turning them into the forbidden fruit that makes children so drawn to them, or even if they are being fed them by abusers like this, such things should be used responsibly. Their misuse should be strictly stigmatized, and in both cases they are. And as well as we should be teaching people about responsible gun use and how to drink responsibly or use any other drug responsibly. Is there anything out there that isn't being appropriately stigmatized? Anything that isn't being held to responsible accountability? Because that would be a good place to start. How about when women abuse men? How about when women abuse boys? Is that the kind of thing that, if we allow to run rampant throughout our society, could cause a chain reaction of other kinds of abuse? If we spend generations excusing anything females do to males as perfectly harmless or non-existent, might that have some kind of causal connection to the rising crisis of drug abuse and gun violence? Nah, God bless you. Nah. Let's just blame men and boys. Let's just punish men and boys. Let us not consider what might have led them or even pushed them into their destructive or self-destructive behavior. Nah, there is no cause other than toxic masculinity. It's not anything they might be learning from their single mothers or their female teachers or the gynocentric man-hating messages they get from every avenue of the media. Heavens to Murgatroyd, no, it's simply innate, do you see? And they need to be castrated by state mandate one way or another. That'll show them, and that'll definitely prevent them from hormonally raging out on anyone. I mean, anyone except themselves. This lad got off lightly, to be honest. A lifetime of drug addiction is not exactly a walk in the park. Indeed, some might describe it as a slow suicide, but it's better than a fast one or an explosive one that does, splash damage. And at least he's been alive long enough to see justice done to his abuser, or to even acknowledge that his abuser did indeed abuse him. For every one story like this, I dread to think how many young lads went to an early grave without ever even having the mental acuity or fortitude to lay some kind of blame on their abuser rather than entirely at their own feet. And you'll never hear about them in a news story. It's not news when it happens every day to men and boys. And you can bet the farm it happens every day. That's why we do what we do here at Honey Badger Radio. Just in case, among the 700 people who listen to this show, there might be one such young man who can listen and countenance the message that it's not your fault. Tell us what you think in the comment section below, lads. You're safe here.
Yeah,
relatively safe. There are. I like to think there are fewer shaming addicts here than there are in most comment sections on the internet. There's always some rough to take with the smooth, but yeah, we're pretty smooth here, all things considered. So yeah, reach out or don't.
Please do.
It's fine. Do what you got to do. Yeah.
Go to BadgerNation.online. Talk to the community. They're very supportive. All right, I got some super chows, and we're going to move on. I think you guys basically said everything that I would have said, so I will not add to that. So Richard BR gives us $5 and says, Hannah, do you actually believe that 2 different police departments in 2 different states are actually capable of locating and verifying information within 5 minutes? Though these are 2 massive bureaucratic organizations that have so many steps to take to decide what toilet paper to use when the roll runs out, with stacks of forms to fill out, it must go through multiple checks and verification steps. How much more difficult would obtaining the arrest records be? Well, I will say, as far as the toilet paper goes, just don't get Scott. More paper doesn't mean better paper.
Yeah, I was going to say, in terms of their bureaucracy, it's harder for them to change your roll of toilet paper than it is to get all of your information and use it against you. And if they could have used the information against him, if they could have proved that he hadn't been in jail when he said he was, they would have gotten that in 5 minutes. It only becomes, quote unquote, difficult to get that information when they can't use it.
Yeah.
Having seen that system inflicted upon several people around me over the years, I figured that out. They can get what they want when they have a use for it, but they can't get what they want when it's exculpatory.
And I got another super chow from Richard HBR for $5, and he says, I think that the story reported that the criminal with the suspended sentence is the one suffering the PTSD. I think it was the boy that was sexually molested for profit so that this woman could supply her drug. I think that's the person with PTSD.
It wouldn't surprise me if she was also saying...
or that she was claiming it, yeah.
I didn't do nothing because I also have PTSD. Let me off, Your Honor.
The court recognized the long-lasting...
Oh, yeah, no, upon the victim who continues to suffer from post-traumatic stress.
PTSD, yeah. And
yeah, it's the boy. You know, he was like 14 or something, and 14, 15 when he was being victimized. But anyway, yeah, pretty dark stuff. Thank you, Richard, for the super chow. And we're going to move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. All right, one more to go. So our last story is another one of women being evil. So Annette Harvey, 54, was found guilty of premeditated first-degree murder, especially aggravated burglary, and commission of a felony in the 2021 stabbing death of Robin Leonard, a psychology professor. The jury deliberated for 3 hours, and Harvey faces life in prison and a $125,000 fine. Leonard, who had temporary custody of Harvey's children, was stabbed multiple times, I think it was like 20 times or something, by Harvey, who argued a mental health crisis during trial. Leonard had cared for the children after Harvey's mental health evaluation, but was attacked when Harvey attempted to take them back. Harvey's sentencing is scheduled for May 1st.
So it took them...
So a guy got custody of the kids, and she murdered him.
It took them 3 hours to decide that she was guilty. Because she argued a mental health crisis. That blows my mind. Like, there's snapping where you're in the moment and you're in the location and you don't remember what you did, or you take put no effort in trying to hide it. You do something that's completely out of character for you and isn't part of an ongoing behavioral problem, right? That would be something that I could see a jury taking time to be like, well, was this person really in control of their actions? Did they do this on purpose? Was this a heat of the moment thing in an extreme situation, like the guy who discovered a guy actively molesting his 5-year-old daughter and killed him, like right there, beat him to death, and later said he regretted his actions and didn't have any control over himself in the moment. Like, anybody who's got kids understands that. Probably a lot of people who don't have kids would understand that. But this is not that. This is a woman who had ongoing mental health conditions, who probably should have had access to this person, and attacked and stabbed him to death. And I just don't understand how it could take that long. If they proved that she stabbed him to death, stabbed him multiple times too. And by the way, that is a sustained level of aggression that takes endurance. and energy and rage, not just something that, you know, you do. We're made of meat. If you've ever tried cutting up raw meat, you'd know that doing that isn't something that, you know, is just, no, you know, ho ho, I'm stabbing somebody to death. It's actually very hard work. So she engaged in this very hard work, this sustained attack, this brutal violence for long enough to kill this man. And it took them 3 hours to decide that the fact that she did it didn't mean she was guilty, because she has a mental health crisis. Again, if the genders were reversed on this, would that be the conclusion? Would it take them that long? Would they go in there in 5 minutes and come out and say, you know what, this is open and shut? Or would there have been a plea bargain? You know, in this case, there wasn't. But I think if a man had been accused in this manner, there would have been a plea bargain. But yeah, it's a mental health crisis that caused it, and her anger at having her children placed in someone else's custody, probably rightfully, considering what she has done here. And as horrible it is that she killed a person, I just hope they didn't see it happen. Like, this poor guy, what he must have gone through. But can you imagine having seen that as a kid and having seen your mother do it?
Yeah, it's crazy. All right. Any other thoughts on this? Not, we'll head into the patron show. We'll look at some super chows if there are any. Let me just double check. No, I think that's it. No Rumble rants, no super chats. That's cool. All right. So yeah, give us your thoughts on this one in the comments. You know, I don't like picking stories where women like murder their partners or friends or whatever, or their children even. I don't take any pleasure in it, but I think that it needs to be documented, because we are often told that such a thing is impossible. And I just want to say that it's entirely possible, and we're going to shine a light on it. No need to do that with men, because we do that all the time, every day on television. So that's why I choose to do these things. And if it's a slow news week, you know, if it's a slow news week, I'll find something like that. But generally, I try to do something where I can make like a broader point. Like the trucker thing, I thought was important. What were you gonna say, Hannah?
Richard says you have a super chow.
Yeah, I do. I see it.
Oh, okay.
I just got one from Richard. Thank you, Richard Bier, because it's $5 and says the number of stabs will be discussed as to how many were out of mental health issues and how many were out of conscious intent. So, how hard did you try to register as a charity? We're not a charity. We're just doing YouTube videos. I think Allison made it into an LLC, but I don't really know. I don't know like the behind the scenes. I just work here. So, all right. Well, anyway, with that out of the way, you guys got to check this out. In the patron show, we're going to be looking at a couple of things. One, Hassan Piker's previous career as pickup artist, where he was trying to make it big on the YouTubes and the internets by giving us dating advice. What he called them bro tips, because it sounds like pro tip, but it's for bros. Of course, now he's just a male feminist, but maybe he always was. Maybe he's not wearing a mask. So we'll look at this cringe compilation of Hassan, also known as Jenk's nephew. And we have this article, which is about how Rachel Ziegler, who you might know from the Snow White remake that's being made, won an award for Best Action Star. Despite the fact that...
Weird.
Pretty sure there were... What was that, Mike?
Weird.
It's
almost musical. I say
it is. It's right up there with. I gotta get that soundbite, and I gotta get. Is that like a personal attack or something? I need to get some of those sound bites. So, but anyway, feel free to join us by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into our Discord, where you'll be able to participate in all of the additional content. And we hope to see you guys there. So, with that said, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please share this video because sharing is caring. Thanks so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we'll talk to you all in the next video.
See you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday. Yes.
Are machines, dude. Okay, they are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.